The final game of 2024 ended in defeat 2-1 to Crystal Palace, the final score at Selhurst Park this afternoon. Paul, going to start with you this week. I mean, it started well, but we kind of ran out of steam and ideas pretty early on. It was a long afternoon.
Yeah, I wasn't fortunate enough to get to the game for reasons that I can't sort of say, but following it as best I could on the stream and on the sort of text and following what my son was telling me, it just sounded like the same old, same old. And then the 3-word review on the Twitter, I just put same old, same old. I know that's 4 words, but I meant effectively same old, same old. A good start. I was, delighted we scored. And then I kind of felt a sense of, okay, can we hold out till half time? And then it just appeared that, I've watched that 3 or 4 times now. And yeah, that decision is diabolical, let's be honest. And as we always say, if that was against another team, they probably wouldn't give it. But they did. And
this
I just
is
felt
the foul on Ramsdale.
Yeah, on Ramsdale. And I just felt after that, maybe psychological heads dropped and it just petered out. And I just didn't see or hear anything that made me sort of get too excited. And I was just waiting for the inevitable goal to come in the other way around. And I don't want to sound defeatist, but I'd really thought to myself with the new manager coming in, I thought 3 potential games, West Ham sort of, and obviously we're going to come on to Brentford, West Ham, Palace. I thought if we don't get something from these 3 games, where are we going to get anything? And here we are, 2 teams, and as Glen has alluded to before we spoke, 2 nothing teams, and we didn't get anything. So I think we're back to square one. Really, it just makes me so disappointed that we didn't sort of like get this change done way sooner. Who knows? Maybe a few weeks sooner against some of the sort of bigger teams, we could have got something moving, and who knows? We could have taken some points about the last 2 games. So I just don't know where we go from here.
Do you think they should have done it after the Bournemouth game? Because that was the kind of general consensus amongst us when we were talking about it previously.
From a personal perspective, I think you had to give him a chance on the basis that if you didn't give him a chance, then everybody would shout at you, well, why didn't you give him longer? Because he could have turned it around. But I think the writing was on the wall. For me, probably let's think, which game would I really think that it was actually probably the Stoke City. I know he wasn't sort of doing a lot, sat in the stands, but that Stoke City game showed me really and truly in the Cup that we were fortunate that day to get that. And I thought if this is how it's going to be against a really, sort of second 11 Stoke team, how are we going to transfer that into the other games?
Yeah, that's fair. Steve, you were there today. Obviously, the officials are going to, again, dominate the chat, unfortunately. I've watched it a couple of times. It's a given, isn't it, really, that the officials are going to be poor and it's not going to go against us. And I kind of feel like we just have to accept it because nothing's going to change. And we seem to be talking about the same things every week.
I mean, there are poor decisions, and then there is that we've seen today, which is just extraordinary. I mean, you would expect, like, even on a Parks pitch where you've got a ref who is one of the players, one of the subs who's just kind of just filling in because the league assigned ref didn't turn up or whatever. Even he would give that foul against his team. That's how obvious it was and how frequently those fouls get given. I mean, goalkeepers are obviously a bit of a protected species. You go anywhere near them, automatic decision from the referee is usually blow the whistle, free kick to the defending team. Everyone often gets annoyed about it, but it is what it is, and it's usually at least applied consistently. Whereas here we've had a decision that the referee's just decided not to give for whatever reason. The lines was looking directly at it. He is pretty much perfectly placed. He's stood next to the corner flag, and has got an unobstructed view there because we haven't got someone on the near post further forward. And yeah, somehow between them communicating, they've decided that even though Mateta's arm is clearly pushing into Ramsdale's ribs to stop him getting anywhere near the ball, apparently that's not a foul. That's not a foul this afternoon. So
what are they seeing that we're not? Because that's what I can't understand. What are they seeing when they look at that? Are they seeing that Ramsdale's just not taking control of his box, or he's on his back foot? And they don't. I mean,
the only thing I can think is that they've decided that Ramsdale hasn't been strong enough, or he's kind of flapped at it and hasn't got himself set or anything like this. But I mean, it's just bollocks basically, because all that's happened is that he's tried to jump and punch it, and the guy stood in front of him has pushed him out of the way. It's genuinely as simple and as clear cut as that. And I mean, I've been sort of very much a sort of VAR sort of advocate and defender over the time, sort of before it came in, and then subsequently since it came in. But if you're not going to apply it to situations like this and actually apply the laws as the referees frequently do, then what's the point? You genuinely might as well just get rid of it. And just go back to the old situation where you basically had to throw your arms up and say, well, shrug your shoulders and say, well, what can you do when you don't get the decision in games against the bigger clubs, but then when you don't get the games against sides like Crystal Palace, and it's just that blatant. You just think, well, why are we even here? What is the point in all of this? And I do think Paul's right in that there is some kind of sort of mental deficiency within a lot of these players, whereby like the slightest, I mean, not necessarily just when we concede a goal, but when, like, if we have a decision that goes against us on VAR, then all of a sudden our heads are just all over the place. We don't have the sort of calmness or the sort of ability to kind of shut it out. Whereas most players at the very top level are able to kind of compartmentalize all of this and put it to one side and kind of forget it and sort of as if it didn't happen. But yeah, we've shown consistently over the last number of years, really. To be honest, it's not a new thing. It's not just this group of players. It's the same group of players that we had when we went down 2 years ago that don't seem to have the sort of mental capability of blocking these things out, and that's part of the reason why we'll go down, and that's I mean, it's something that needs to be resolved.
We're back to scar tissue again, aren't we? It's been a while since we've heard that phrase. Glenn, I think just sort of last thing on the officials, it comes back to that point I think you made maybe last week, the week before, probably the week before that, about the refs at the top level just being too scared to make the decisions because you've got the safety net that is VAR there, but they're not using it properly. And that would have been a completely different outcome had that game been in the Championship or League One.
Well, as Steve said, even on a Parks pitch, or certainly any other league of professional football that doesn't have VAR, as soon as the striker makes contact with the goalkeeper, it's a foul. End of. And the referee gives it. But in the Premier League, we've got these referees who don't give decisions, and then PGMOL come out with this absolute crap like they did the goal we had disallowed at Wolves. The one that was allowed at Wolves. I think, was it the Brighton one? I can't remember. So many of them where they say the on-field decision carries weight. Well, you can't have that if the referees are not giving decisions and waiting for VAR, which I think is what happened today. It's a clear foul. There's actually two fouls in there because everyone's looking at Ramsdale, but if you look at Chalabar, he's hitching a ride on Harwood-Bellis. He can't get off the ground, and he's the one who actually scores. So they can't even argue that it wasn't it was a different player or not significant. It's just garbage. Again, naively, and I was watching it on the telly, but again, naively, I kind of thought when it went to VAR and I saw the first replay, I thought, oh, that'll get disallowed, no bother. Yeah. And then they give the goal, and he's just, again, I lost about 20 minutes of the game afterwards because I just sat there kind of depressed with the state of everything. That just depressed with the state of the Premier League. Yeah, but I'm not getting paid thousands of pounds a week to not be like that. And I just sat there thinking, what's the point of this bloody league? The sooner we get out of it, the better. I just wish I didn't have to sit through another 5 months of this shit because, that's what we're going to have basically. And I know it's all over bar the shouting, but it just within the context of one game, I'd just like to have, I'd like to have a feeling that it's going to be what I consider to be fair decisions off of VAR. And everyone sees, games through, the coloured spectacles for your particular side. And so everyone's biased when they're watching it, if they're a true fan of one of the teams and stuff like that. But that one is crazy. And some of the ones we've had this year. I mean, someone made the point about the Brighton one where the goal got disallowed for interfering with the keeper from 10 yards away. Whereas we've got this situation
Shove
today.
the keeper from 3 inches.
Shove the keeper against the post, and that's absolutely fine. I just can't be bothered with it. Sick of the Premier League. As I said with Steve said, I was loosely a supporter of VAR when it came in, and I was prepared to give it a chance. I lost my patience with it in our relegation season 2 years ago because I just thought it was shambolic. It's not getting any better. I don't think it ever will, and I would scrap the whole thing. And for the people that say, well, it was, if you didn't have it, it was given as a goal on the field, but it wouldn't have been if the referees were not relying on VAR to do their work for them. I would just get rid of it, but they won't. We're too far down the road. So they will, this will carry on at Premier League level. I just am thankful that we're not going to be part of it next season.
And of course, there was only one club that voted to scrap it, wasn't there? And that was Wolves.
Yeah.
Ironically. So let's get back to the team, Paul, if we can. I mean, the poor officials is one thing. That's a bit of a given. But the other thing that's also a given at the moment is that we're pretty toothless going forward. That's nothing new. And I can't see that changing anytime soon. But it looks like we haven't got the players to get the goals.
Well, again, when I saw the team sheet, firstly, I still haven't quite worked out what happened to Downs. Not sure what happened to him or where he was. Was he actually on the bench, Steve?
Dead leg, apparently.
Okay, fine. But again, Armstrong, I think we've repeated ourselves constant times about he offers nothing. I'm not quite sure why he's being picked ahead of Archer. Surely Archer's got to be a better bet. How many goals has Archer got this year compared to Armstrong? Probably 6-4. Who knows? But I would have thought, again, he was a better bet. And I did see that after the game when Juric said that Sulemana came on and played well. I don't know what game he was watching. I really don't. And every time we just seem to rely. I mean, if you want to get a goal to save yourself in a game, put on somebody who hasn't scored in 2 years? He scored those 2 against Liverpool, didn't he?
In the dead rubber, yeah.
Yeah, he must be living off that for the rest of his life, probably. And I still haven't forgiven him for what he did at the West Ham game, but we'll come on to that. But, the point of, I was glad to see, Amo-Ameyaw giving it a go. But for me, football's all about, to win a game, you've got to score goals. Okay, we got away with it in the Championship because we conceded 3 but score 5. And it worked. But this season, we offer nothing going forward. And I think I saw a couple of Glen's sort of tweets sort of during the game saying, because I couldn't see all of it. I
don't want to read those.
No, I kept diving in and out of them. And he was saying about, offered nothing in the first 30 minutes of the second. And I thought, from what I could see, what I could read, what I could try and follow, that's how it sounded. And I never heard anything from the commentary that sounded exciting that we were going forward. It just sounded like it just fizzled out. So unless we are going to spend big, which I don't think is probably the greatest idea anyway, in the January transfer sales to try and salvage what is an absolutely diabolical season. I just think we have to just accept our fate. And as Glen said, just, wake up tomorrow and it'll be May the 25th or whatever it is, and it's over. And, prepare for life in the Championship. And, maybe with Archer, maybe with Armstrong, maybe if Amo-Ameyaw stays, although we'll probably need money for him, then we might have some sort of chance of stabilising. But, I mean, what have we got? 12 goals in 19 games? Pathetic, isn't it? Yeah. Absolutely pathetic. And until we learn that this game is all about scoring more than the opposition, we're going only one direction.
It's a long way to go. Steve, we did score a goal at least. I mean, what was your view like at Selhurst Park? 'Cause I know it's a little bit hit and miss, isn't it? Was it all right? Did you see the goal?
I did, but yes, it's. I mean, basically, unless you get a ticket in the front 9 or 10 rows, then every ticket should be marked restricted view, quite frankly, in that Arthur Waite stand. It's an absolutely.
I saw the views from the press box that George and Alfie were tweeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, they had a pillar right in front of them. Then I guess if it's that close to you, then you can kind of look around it and probably see everything. But I don't know. But yeah, it's a diabolical away end. Probably up there with the worst in the league now. No, I suppose Everton's probably down there still. For the obviously only for this season now, but yeah, it's just awful away end. The only positive for me is that I was home and in the door 40 minutes after after the final whistle.
With a takeaway.
Yes, yeah, nice and local one for me. When it's that cold outside,
A chance to salvage the day.
Yeah.
Just get out of there.
But it was good work from Carl Walker-Peters, wasn't it? I thought, for the goal.
It was, and that's something he's probably not done enough of, I would say. I mean, yeah, obviously defensively we've been all over the shop all season, and as a result, I think he's probably still got half a mind on covering behind. But Nathan Wood's generally been okay. I think Wood had a bit of a ropey one today, quite frankly. But
Agreed.
When I don't think he's come up against that sort of pace and power yet, which is odd when you're talking about playing a game against Palace, who are only 4 or 5 places above us. And he's played games against the likes of Villa and Liverpool and looked quite competent. But yeah, Walker-Peters has done superbly to I mean, he's completely taken their fullback to pieces on that play. He's got round the back of him, pulled it back. Not quite sure whether Armstrong's shot was blocked or whether he just completely shanked it.
No, it went sideways.
But Dibbling's obviously Dibbling's in the right place for a relatively simple tap in. And at that point, you think, good. Well, we've found an avenue that we can attack the opposition. We've highlighted a weakness, and that's somewhere where we can keep going. And I think he went past him once again about 5 minutes or so later, but it didn't. the chance didn't come to anything. But then he stopped. And I don't think there was a single moment in the second half where he tried to take him on, despite having obviously the knowledge that he had the beating of him. And it was
like old habits creeping back in, do you think?
Yeah, just really frustrating. And especially when we were creating a lot of space on the other side for James Bree, in terms of someone. The problem in that situation is you need someone who's got the ability to make that sort of ping quick switch, and we don't really have it. Unfortunately, we don't. Fernandez is kind of that, probably the closest we've got to it, but I think his kind of clever passes are over a much shorter distance. You need someone who can ping a 60-yard crossfield one over to the opposite flank, where the fullback has tucked in, and all of a sudden you've got 20 yards of space. But we didn't do that. We didn't try that pass once, I don't think, which is a little bit frustrating. And I think those are the sort of little details that hopefully Juric will have spotted, and will be looking to try and find someone who can play that pass, because it's going to be pretty useful if we can add that. But ultimately, I think our biggest problem today was balls into the box. We put enough balls in; they were just of such rank quality that Palace didn't really have an awful lot to deal with. Unfortunately, it was very simple headers away for the most part, either at the near post or fairly comfortably from a cross that's not really whipped. So yeah, a bit more work on the training ground, I think, on set pieces and crossing.
I know your issue, Glenn, before the kickoff was the midfield looking decidedly weak.
Yeah.
Were you surprised to see Big Les drop out? I think
Very much so.
He was rested because he's not played enough. But
yeah, no, I get that, but I mean, this is the problem that we've got. So I'm hoping that Juric is still learning about the players that he's got at his disposal. But as soon as you see, there's this kind of change between, or disconnect, if you like, between what he wants his central midfielders to do and the ones he's got. As far as I can tell, the way he wants to play, the only two midfielders we've got suitable to play those roles are Downs and Ugachukwu. They're the only two. I had one argument that said he wants to maintain the intensity and Ugachukwu wouldn't be fit enough. Well, if you want intensity, you don't pick Joe Aribo, do you? It's just mental, because he's just not suitable. You don't, in the same way you don't pick Adam Lallana because he can't run for 60 minutes, let alone 90 minutes. And you wouldn't pick Will Smallbone for the same reason, because he can't run at all. So you know, there's a problem there. If he wants to play this heavy metal football, let's call it that, you can't do it if you start with Joe Aribo and Matis Fernandes in midfield. I thought Matis Fernandes was actually really good and he stuck to his task really well. But there's a certain lack of defensive nous with him that you saw on the second goal, because he's just got to clear that. And, you know what I mean, we'll probably, you know, we've let in another goal to a set piece. You know, the second goal, it's another half cleared corner that we've
had 3 goes at getting that away, haven't we? And still barely got it beyond the 18-yard box.
Exactly the same as the West Ham goal, where we've cleared the initial corner, it's come back in. We've cleared it, it's come back in. We've all lost our minds, running everywhere, player free, you know, and that's exactly what happened today. But no, the midfield actually started quite well, and I thought for 20 minutes or so, I thought, oh, this actually might be okay. But Palace took control of the game on 20 minutes, and that was when Will Hughes and Jefferson Lerma got hold of the midfield. And they started, Hughes in particular, who's a horrible little player, can't stand him. But we made him look like a bit of a world beater. At the end of the first half, start of the second half, he was controlling the entire game, and we weren't getting to him. You know, the defenders were touch tight too. I mean, Bednarek was having a wrestling match with Mateta the whole game. Wood was having fun with Sarr, same sort of thing. Harwood-Bellis was kicking lumps out of Eza. That's the sort of way he wants us to play. But the midfielders weren't getting close to Hughes and Lerma, and it was just allowing them to play. And from about 20 minutes onward, we never regained control of that midfield, which is probably why, you know, as well as changing our tactics in the second half, probably why we didn't sort of like do anything in the second half. We didn't really do anything from the 20th minute onwards once Palace took control of that midfield. You know, another issue was that the whole game, you know, like him or loathe him, the whole gameplay, the whole plan at the moment is built around Paul Onuachu. And if you take him off, you've got to have something else. And that was another reason why nothing happened in the last sort of 25 minutes, because there was just nothing. You know, you've got to give Paul the ball that plays to his strengths, and it's the same with Cameron Archer. And if you don't give him the pass that plays to his strength, he's a passenger. And that's what happened. And yeah, we've touched on the other substitution where Adam Armstrong can be woeful for 65 minutes, and then you bring on the only player in history who could make it worse. It's just staggering.
It's true. Paul makes a very good point. As soon as he comes on, you know it's game over. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that, as we've touched on many times. Paul, I just want to talk about Bella Kotchap, who was on the bench. Seems like he might have a part to play. Not sure who he comes in for, but are you a fan of like clean sheet for everybody? And this is somebody that we might need. There's a half decent player in there, and he might help us to scrape some points.
Well, I suppose I'm not quite sure why Glen was laughing. Maybe that's something he knows I don't. But he said more clean. He said so many clean slates he could tile a whole bloody roof. He probably could. Yeah, no, he probably could. But I think, given what what has been said about sort of our defenders being muscled out of it, why not give him a go? I mean, put it this way: it's done. We're over. We're going down. Yeah. And I don't want to be negative, but we might as well give him a try. Who knows? He might be an absolute revelation. And if we want to play this death metal, speed metal, God knows football, whatever it's called, who knows? He might just get in there and get stuck in. I'm not a great fan of death metal. I was a bit more Iron Maiden personally, but that's another matter. But give him a go. Why not? I mean, if Woods had a bit of a ropey one, swap him out, give him a go, see what he goes. I mean, as you say with Bednarek, he seems to be good and bad in the same game, from what I sort of see.
Bednarek's suspended next week, so
is he?
I mean,
okay.
I would assume
with Down.
I think
so. With Fernandes.
I think that was his fifth booking today.
Yeah,
so
that's Fernandes out, and then that's Bednarek out. Well, then maybe the two opportunities have got to be to people who haven't had a go, and why not?
Tell you what, I mean, I'll put money on him getting injured in his first game back.
Well, the alternative, Glenn, is Jack Stevens coming back in, I guess.
Oh,
well, he's injured.
No, let's not go there. I think to be good. Well, that's about first bit of good news all week then. But in terms of ABK, well, yeah, fine. Let's see what he can produce. He may just throw his toys out of the pram when he gets on the pitch with one mistake, get booed, and that'll be the end of him. But you've got to give it a try. If we're paying his wages, then we might as well give him a try. I can't think who else there is possibly hanging around that we want to try. I mean, what does Sam Amo have to do to get a game these days? something's got to happen with him, or else he's going to leave and go somewhere else. I mean, anything half decent is going to be left. So yeah, let's see. But as I say, I didn't realise that Bednarek was injured, so that's probably a straight swap, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And see how it goes.
Anything else on Palace before we move on?
No.
No, not really. It was just woeful. Yeah, I just hope that the manager is still learning about the players, because I'm not surprised the game went that way in the second half with the players we had out on the pitch. So that's all I can say about Palace, really. Let's move on.